Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are 75 days out from the general election. Is that not crazy? I feel like I just made the 100 days out video. Happens to have been 25 days ago. It's crazy. 75 days from the election. That's less than 3 months. It's about 2.5 months from the election. The DNC is currently going on tonight. Tim Walz gave his acceptance speech for the VP nomination of the Democrat Party tomorrow night. Kamala Harris will give her address. Of course, we've seen each night a new president, one of the older presidents, I guess, give a speech to the DNC. Tonight it was Bill Clinton. Last night, Barack Obama. And the first night was all about Joe Biden and his legacy and passing the torch. Of course, Biden wanted him to be the one accepting the nomination. However, after pressure from inside of his party, specifically people like Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, who each respectively gave speeches today and yesterday, basically forced him out, speaking as frankly as possible. However, he's endorsed Vice President Harris for the Democratic nomination and for the presidency, and it is going to be a Harris-Trump race at the moment. Of course, in today's day and age, anything can change, but right now, this is really what it looks like the election is shaping up to be. Harris, of course, since her acceptance of the nomination or the endorsement of Biden and becoming the presumptive nominee, has named Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate, who, again, spoke tonight to the DNC. He is the running mate for Kamala Harris. And then, of course, Trump, literally the day of the RNC beginning, nominated or announced that he is picking Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his running mate. It's certainly going to be an interesting campaign. The first debate between Harris and Trump, I believe, will be taking place on September 10th on ABC. George Stephanopoulos will not be the moderator. Of course, Trump has had a lot to say about him, calling him George Slobodomopoulos. I believe David Muir will moderate that debate. And then, of course, I believe there will be another debate, at least one more, additional one between Trump and Harris, and a VP debate between Vance and Walz. It's certainly going to be an interesting campaign. The odds have tremendously shifted post Biden's withdrawal, and it's become a neck-and-neck race. If the election were held today, I truly believe it would be a coin flip, and I make all my predictions based off of the current state of the race. Of course, if Biden was still running, I certainly believe Trump would have an advantage at this point in the campaign and likely would be the front runner for the presidency. But now it is, in my opinion, a 50-50 coin flip in the election. A lot of people are saying that Harris has the advantage right now. I wouldn't speak too soon on that. I think the polls are still pretty favorable. They still actually predict a Trump victory when you do the RCP no toss-up map. So really to say Harris is the front runner is a bit of a stretch, in my opinion, although she has had or created a tremendous shift in momentum in her favor over the last few weeks. You could expect that to die down and polls to kind of return to how they were before the Trump-Biden debate, which is exactly kind of what we're seeing at the moment. So right now, Trump still has a lot of the momentum. However, she could get a bump from the DNC. We've yet to see. Before I get into the prediction, I'd just like to mention one more thing: the poly market odds. Take a look at the betting odds. Surprisingly, as the DNC has gone on, Trump has gained in the betting. He's gained in the percent chance that people believe that he's going to win. He's now the favorite in the betting market. So a bit of an interesting contrast, definitely showing that viewing Trump as an underdog is really not the best move in this election. Past two elections, he's been an underdog against Biden and against Clinton. Both elections, Biden was certainly up in the polls in 2020, and Hillary Clinton was up in the polls as well in 2016. So something to consider as well. Trump is no longer really viewed as an underdog. He's viewed as a very formidable candidate, as a former president, and as somebody who can really drive up turnout, and we'll see if Harris is able to do that this time around. With all that being said, let's get into our safe Harris states. Without being super concerned about the margins, I'll be including the state of Colorado in this prediction as a safe state. Like states like New York definitely will be closer than states like Vermont. However, they're all safe states at the end of the day. It's going to be 191 electoral safe states for Kamala Harris. 270, of course, is the key number to win the election. For Donald Trump, safe states, usuals. Even with those very interesting and favorable Democratic results in the Alaska primary, I believe, I still consider Alaska a safe Trump state at the end of the day, as well as former toss-up states like Iowa and Ohio. If you went back to 2016, even 2020, Iowa and Ohio were considered to be toss-up states, as well as Maine 2nd Congressional District. However, this time around, they really seem to be Trump states. He doesn't have to focus much of his attention or of his campaign in those states. Of course, J.D. Vance comes from Ohio. Trump's won Iowa and Ohio by very high single-digit margins, and as well as Maine's 2nd congressional district. Obama did win those way back when in 2012. However, they have shifted and went in Trump's direction. However, looking at it right now, among the safe states, Harris does have a uh, a 42 vote lead in the Electoral College. Certainly not the presidency. That's 270, and we'll see if she gets there in this video. Heading into our likely Harris states, Maine at large, we saw a poll out of Maine today. However, by UNH, relatively accurate pollster. However, it just seemed to be a bit skewed. I mean, it had Harris up in Maine's 2nd congressional district. I don't believe she'll be winning there at this time, and it does seem as if it was kind of overestimating it and kind of getting a little bit of a response bias from Democrats. You got to keep that in mind when you look at those polls. However, still, I think that she will pretty handily win Maine's at-large district. Maine is still a Democrat state. Susan Collins is really the only Republican that performs well there on the national level. With regard to Minnesota, after picking Walz, I believe Harris will win the state of Minnesota by a likely margin as well, and the state of New Mexico, getting her to 208 electoral votes, and inching closer to the 270 mark. She's now above 200 electoral votes. With Trump, likely states include the state of Texas and Florida, two giant gifts. That's a 70 electoral vote gift from those two states combined. Texas is the second biggest state with electoral votes, and Florida is the third biggest state, right behind California. California, of course, the biggest in the nation with 54, Texas at 40, Florida at 30. Florida actually gained an electoral vote from the reallocation in the census. Texas gained 2 electoral votes, and California actually lost an electoral vote. So kind of shifting a little bit in favor of Trump when you look at it that way. However, really doesn't affect it, the election in terms of what states you need to win at the end of the day. However, 219 to 208. So now Trump has taken the lead when you include those likely states in the prediction. Let's head into our lean states for Kamala Harris. Lean state will be the state of New Hampshire, Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. Her and Tim Walz actually just did a rally in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. Certainly believe that that is a crucial district for them, a must-win district, and it truly, that one electoral vote definitely could have a massive effect on the Electoral College. If you look at and watch my previous video on a 269 Electoral College tie, you'll realize how big of a district that is in the country. Anyway, as well, the state of Virginia is going to be a lean Harris state. We saw an interesting poll out of Roanoke College with Harris winning Virginia, beating Trump by 3 points. Roanoke College historically has been a very accurate poll in Virginia. In 2020, they predicted Biden to win by 11 points. He won the state by about 10 points. So very accurate, slightly overestimating Biden. So if that's the case, and it is accurate this time around, it will be a lean state. Of course, Glenn Youngkin fully supports Donald Trump in the election, and he is having an incredibly high approval rating in Virginia. I believe it's above 65%. He has over a 65% approval in Virginia. When you look back at 2021, that was a neck-and-neck race between him and Terry McAuliffe. However, today, Youngkin has gained tremendously in popularity in the state, and his backing of Trump certainly has created a slight advantage for Trump in Virginia. Now, not the win. I don't think he'll win it at the end of the day, but definitely making it more competitive and possibly putting the Harris campaign on their heels. Anyway, that is it for the lean Harris states, getting her to 226 electoral votes. That means that she is 44 away from the presidency, from 270. Trump, however, is 51 away. However, we haven't really talked about his lean states. The first lean state, state of North Carolina. With the North Carolina state going in his favor, that is exactly the amount of states that he won in 2020. When you redo it after the reallocation of electoral votes, he gains 3 electoral votes. In 2020, this would have given him 232 electoral votes. Now he has 235. So a slight advantage with the reallocation of the census. However, as I said before, it doesn't really change the states that each candidate needs to win this election. Trump still needs to win specific states in order to get him there. The same states, really, that he needed to win in 2020, which he didn't, and which he did in 2016. So North Carolina going in favor of Donald Trump. Additionally, the state of Nevada going in favor of Donald Trump. A lot of polls out of Nevada showing him doing very well there. We've seen a tremendous shift, especially in the Hispanic community, really shifting the state of Nevada in Trump's favor. And all of the polls that have been coming out, whether against Harris or Biden, have shown Trump in the lead. The Reid machine, as they call it, seemingly kind of dying following Harry Reid's death and exit from politics back in 2015, and then his death in 2021, I believe. So Nevada definitely looking like it's going to shift, or definitely with the possibility of it going in favor of Republicans for the first time in 20 years, since 2004 when George Bush won it. That's it for the lean Trump states. These final 5 states, these are the most important states in the 2020 election. This is really where all the campaigns are going to be spending most of their money, most of their rallies, most of their attention, and focus on winning these states. It's really interesting in the United States because it's not based off of the popular vote. It's based off of the Electoral College. And so, and as you can see based on these maps, most of the states in the country, uh, you know how they're going to vote. You have a really good sense of which candidate they're going to be voting for. However, these 5 are the 50-50 states. They could go either way. It really just depends on how excited each base is and how much they turn out, because especially in the Rust Belt, that's going to be pretty much within a point, as well as Georgia and Arizona. All those states were relatively within a point in 2020, with the exception of Michigan within 2 points. So incredibly close races, which means that the candidates spend their time rallying in these states. The most important states this election, I would say, are Pennsylvania and Georgia. However, all of them are very important to win the election. Harris, I believe, will tilt the state of Michigan in her favor. That means it's a tie now, 241 to 241, down to these 4 states. Michigan, you look at previous, with Biden in his primary, a lot of uncommitted votes, a lot of the Muslim votes in the community, not really wanting to go out and vote for Biden because of his stance in Israel and Gaza. However, with Harris on the ticket, not picking Shapiro could have helped her in a state like Michigan. However, it could come back to bite her in Pennsylvania, which is a must-win for Kamala Harris as well. With Tim Walz on the ticket, even with the Rust Belt appeal, a state like Pennsylvania against Donald Trump, who also has tremendous Rust Belt appeal, is still going to be very difficult. It's not going to be a sure thing. With Shapiro on the ticket, it definitely could have been easier for Harris to win. However, maybe then a state like Michigan would be harder to win because she would pick Shapiro, who's more pro-Israel than compared to Tim Walz. With that, let's head into a tilt Trump state. I think that the state of Arizona is going to tilt in Trump's favor, flipping that state in favor of Trump from 2020. Arizona, Trump has gained, as I said, with Nevada in the Hispanic community. A lot of polls are showing that he's performing well in that region of the country. I believe that Kamala Harris is going to tilt the state of Wisconsin in her favor. As I said, with Tim Walz and that Rust Belt appeal, I believe, will slightly put her over the top in the state of Wisconsin. It's going to be an incredibly close state. So it's 252 to 251. Before, a few seconds ago, I said it came down to Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania and Georgia. Right now, I think that Trump is going to tilt Georgia in his favor. He only lost Georgia by 1/5% back in 2020. It's a very close race. Of course, he said some negative things about the governor. However, they seem to have made up. He's going to be campaigning there incredibly heavily. He's up in the polls. A lot of the Georgia voting rules have been changed in what you could argue will help Donald Trump as well. There was a lot of course, complaints among Republicans with how the voting system was conducted in 2020. Some of that stuff has changed. As I said, that could help him with his campaign in Georgia and the ultimate election. However, that doesn't get him to 270. Final state of Pennsylvania is going to decide this election. At the end of the day, I think Trump is going to win the state of Pennsylvania incredibly narrowly. You can see that this is a very close election. It's a coin flip election right now. Trump, I think, narrowly edges Harris and goes on to win the presidency. This is not a sure thing for either side, for either the Democrats or the Republicans. While Harris has the momentum, Trump certainly has an incredible amount of enthusiasm on his side as well. It's going to come down to turnout. It's going to come down to how many people from each side get out and vote for their party. It's not like there are a majority of the Democrats that are going to win or a majority of Republicans that are going to outnumber each other. Not as it was in 2020 where Biden won by about 5 million votes. It's going to be a neck-and-neck race as well with the popular vote. Trump could very well win the popular vote. It's a neck-and-neck race. And with that being said, think Trump narrowly wins this election. Regardless of who wins this election, you're going to be seeing a divided country in the lame duck session with what Joe Biden will have in that 2.5 months until January 20th. If Trump's going to be sworn in on January 20th, it's going to be very interesting to see how that transfer of power goes. And if Harris is sworn in on January 20th, it's also going to be interesting to see how that transfer of power goes, how Trump accepts those results. Trump, in my prediction, wins the presidency, 287 to 251, going on to become 47th president of the United States in an incredible political comeback, one of the greatest political comebacks, in my opinion, in American history, rivaling that of Richard Nixon and, of course, Grover Cleveland, who did what Trump would have done if he actually wins this race. With that being said, thank you for watching this video. Please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Comment below your thoughts on this election prediction, and stay tuned for more content because we are 75 days away from the general election. Next prediction will be 50 days away, and after 50, it's going to be every 10 days I'll be coming out with a new prediction because that is the final countdown until election day. With that being said, thank you for watching and have a great day.